what you conniving. Money, money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. You can keep your conniving money. When you been a corrupt in a bill, tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a bill, tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. Now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker, neighbor, neighbor, joker, neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a guild of piece. A 2 pound note and a guild of piece. A 2 pound note and a guild of piece. This is all the money that me walk for. I said money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. Now I don't want you conniving money.
Well, I invoke the WPA's position that we are engaging in civil disobedience and non-cooperation with the government. And on that grounds, I refuse to participate in the interview. The question in struggle, is not personal. Whatever sacrifice as a political activist or a political leader you have to make for your people, you have to make it.
Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Comes TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruptions over land and sea, where the wicked politicians, they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see, sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, with Jah has ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, fooling the people. You promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. They got Rickford, Bork and Mark Benchcop. David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam. Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London. Normal Brown and Gavin Machos. Big up Paslow Port People Governor. Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson, Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese morning time, the people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Wyndham Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
put in a 12-cent meatball. You was on a lice. I gonna give you a word of advice. Take your meat out my rice.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the East Remvelt Market Meat section. Call us on 609-2049. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop brings you the best in fresh cut meats and lots more. Morning time, it is 7 hours 34. That is 26 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour on the 20th day of August in the year 2023. Guess if you're heading out to work for 8 o'clock, you should be on your way, right? But here, listen, don't worry, then, man. Don't go to work today. I'll stay and listen to morning time. Yeah, the correct thing, as they say, the acceptable thing is that you should be at your desk at least 10 or 15 minutes before the start of the day's work. Not for the employer's sake, you know, I believe it is for your own sake. You sit there and you relax and you contemplate and you formulate a plan in your head what you set out to achieve for the day. And if you could do that for your employer, what about yourself? Have you taken the time to set goals for today? What are your goals for today? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to achieve? I'm going to ask you all a difficult question. I'm minding your business. How many of you got up and made your bed this morning? I read somewhere that, I witnessed it in the army and so on. You dare not get up from your barrack and leave your bed unkempt. You have to make your bed. Right? You have to make your bed. And I understand that the principle behind that is if you don't achieve anything else for the day, you can at least feel proud that you made a good bed for the day. So when you wake in the morning, don't just roll over and run into the battlefield. Get up, take your time, make your bed. In the army, they don't want to see any wrinkles and creases. They want to see it all neat and well arranged and so on. And when you look at that, you say, yeah, this bed looks good this morning. I've done something for the day. I've achieved something for the day. And so that is the only thing that you will achieve for the day. Take heart in that. Good? So let me encourage you, start making your beds. Right? That's a wisdom behind it. At least that is what I read somewhere. Right? It's a good encouragement. When you look at your bed, you know, it's all neat and ready to accept you. And that's the other thing. When you have completed the day, with all of the distractions and disappointments and so on, and you return home, what happens? You have a well-made bed to go to. Right? You don't even have to, as we say, fight up to now make your bed. because you did that ahead of time. And there's another wisdom to that as I'm talking, because it says, as old people say, you make your bed, you're going to lay down for them. If you take your time to make your bed properly, then the possibility is you're going to get a well-made bed to lie on, and therefore you're going to be able to rest in comfort. Let that transcend your life. Look at that across your life. If you make the necessary preparations as you're making your bed, if you make the preparations to success, then the possibility is you will enjoy success. Good? And so I'm giving you that nugget, if you want to call it that, so you can share it with your children and your next generations and so on, especially those youngsters who have just completed CXC, the Caribbean Secondary Education Examination Certificate, and they are now moving on to university, etc. Let them understand that how they make their bed at colleges and universities will determine what they rest on. Good? That will determine what they rest on. I usually say that the university campuses across the world is a place of great freedom. It is also a place of great expectations and great responsibilities. So you could choose if you're going to accept the freedom without the responsibility and the expectations. Right? But choices have consequences, and if you choose to go onto the campus and enjoy all the freedom there is, at the end of the day, it's likely that you're not going to, you're not necessarily going to enjoy your expectations, because everybody, I would want to believe, goes to the university expecting to be successful at the end of the day. But you can't only enjoy the freedoms, right, without taking responsibility and expect success. And so let us take that to our general lives. We cannot expect freedom, or we cannot enjoy freedom, if we're not willing to take responsibilities. Unless, of course, our expectation is a new form of enslavement in this dear land of ours, this apartheid Guyana. I'm going to be very honest here with you. And so, what are our responsibilities as citizens? Our responsibilities to me is to defend the rights that the ancestors fought for and gained for us. Top of the list to me is the right to choose your government. Adult suffrage, they call it. One man, one vote. But how do you value your vote? Right? How do you value your vote? Because you were given the right to vote, one man, one vote, is it enough that you just go into the booth, you place an X, and I'm enjoying this drum in the background, but let me take it off, it might be a distraction. Yes, is it enough to just go into the voting booth and vote and just don't look back? Is it enough to go into the booth and vote regardless of the conditions under which you go into those booths? In my book, it can be enough. Because unless the conditions are right, my vote is not valued or valuable. It's not given the right value. Because if I can just go and vote and then somebody corrupts the system and changes the outcome of the election, then my vote is not counted. My vote is not respected. I have a responsibility to ensure that my vote is respected, to ensure my vote is counted. How do I undertake that responsibility? How do I execute to ensure that that responsibility is respected? Or that responsibility is, what we say, disposed? How do I do what is necessary to ensure that my vote is respected? There are several options. We can call for stronger systems, as in electoral reforms or constitutional reform. We can take to the streets and decide that we're going to exercise mob rule. We're going to hold the government at ransom. We're going to humbug and disrupt everything until the government sits and addresses our concerns. In some countries, the military can take over. Or I should say, in some countries, the military have taken over. Right? So there are very many options to which one can turn to ensure that the votes are respected. What are we doing in Guyana about ensuring respect for our votes? Learned senior counsel Nigel Hughes. Y'all don't tell me he's not senior counsel, he's my senior counsel. At the Coffee 250 10th Forum on the State of African Guyanese, called for a supermajority in Parliament. What's that supermajority? A simple majority is just one vote more than the opposition, or one vote for the yeas instead of the nays. That's a simple majority. So if we are voting on the budget, and we got 10 for and 9 against, then the budget gets passed. Simple. But in Nigel Hughes' presentation, he says, listen, the way things are in this country, if we're really going to be talking about good governance and shared governance and so on, we should contemplate a supermajority, and that is no less than 51% of the votes. No less than 51% of the votes. And so of all the people in Parliament, you must have 51% of them voting for the bill, or whatever it is, before it gets passed. That's his proposal. Did the PPP address that? Oh yes, they did. They came out with fire and brimstone against it. Started by Anil Nandlala, if I remember the sequential order. It was Anil who first criticized it. He said there's wanting power by the back door. And his government will not even entertain the thought of giving power by the back door. And then Jagdeo came out and he ranted and he raved against it. In short, the PPP, the government of the day, illegitimately so or not, has indicated to us that they have no interest in power sharing. They're not prepared to share power. They're not prepared to engage in good governance, because good governance includes or necessitates the involvement of the opposition in decision making. They are not involved. They are not interested in that. They will continue to rule as they see fit. But lest you think it slipped me, last Monday when we were doing the WPA program, one of the PPP surrogates, Miranda Brown, asked the question, is the WPA open to having discussions with the PPP about governance? I'm paraphrasing, I hope that is the exact thing, I hope those are the words, at least those are the sentiments, about power sharing. Right? So the question is, who really is Miranda Brown representing when she comes onto these platforms and asks questions such as these? Was she sent? And note I'm using the term she loosely because I don't know who Miranda Brown is. Right? Was she sent as a red herring to the WPS program? Or is the PPP seriously contemplating a discussion with the WPA on power sharing. History has shown that when the PPP finds itself with its back against the wall, they reach out. They try to win souls, if I can call it that. They try to ease the burden or reduce the fire power that is aimed at them by reaching out to other political parties and say, let's work in partnership. They did it. Remember, I told you about the days of the PCD, the Patriotic Coalition for Democracy, the Guard movement, and all of the other formations in this country when they were trying to unseat the Fobbs-Burnham government. The PPP was upfront and personal in participating in those movements. But as soon as there was light at the end of the tunnel, as soon as there was a glimmer of hope, here the US will intervene, or the UK will intervene, and the PNC will go to an election that is going to purportedly be free and fair and free from fear. Jagan abandoned ship. He no longer wanted an all-party front to contest the election. He no longer was willing to negotiate who gets presidency and who gets prime minister, etc. How the spoils will be shared. He wanted it all for the PPP, with himself as president. So assuming that Miranda is representing the PPP and saying, listen, we want to have discussions. We are home to the idea of having discussions about power sharing with the WPA because, and I'm being specific when I say with the WPA because you've heard the ranting and raving of Jagdeo and Anil against the suggestion of senior council use of the supermajority. And we interpret that as an opposition to power sharing. But here it is, they're saying, assuming Miranda is representing the PPP hierarchy and testing the water, is the WPA willing to have a discussion with us? We have to be guided by history. We have to be guided by the past. Like it or not. Should the WPA go into any such discussions? I've seen a response already. Somebody say that should be a big no. But let me be the devil's advocate like I usually claim to be sometimes. There are lots of people who said that the WPA should not have engaged the PNC to form a partnership for national unity. Because the PNC leader then, Fobbs-Burnham, was responsible for the murder of WPA's leader, Walter Rodney. There's still a lot of WPA people who feel strongly that the WPA should not have ever entered into any arrangement with the PNC because of that murder. Right? But the WPA nevertheless went ahead and said, listen, it is bigger than who murdered Walter. It is bigger than us and our fights against the PNC. We are doing this for the national good. Should the same reasoning be accepted when it comes to dealing with the PPP? That's the question I want us to talk about this morning. It's a hypothetical, so don't think that the WPS sent me here to ask you anything. Boxonian Guyanese Morning Time is my forte. I am asking you the question. Like I've asked you many other questions. Should the WPA contemplate at any point in time to have discussions with the PPP on power sharing? Because WPA has been calling for power sharing since Noah was a boy. Should the PPP step forward now and say, we are ready to talk with you, Working People's Alliance, about sharing power? Should the WPA engage in such discussions? The lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. It is now 8 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. Let me hear your thoughts on that. At the same time, let me remind you that the WPA has launched its campaign fund, and we're accepting contributions and commitments to contributions. So you can message me on WhatsApp 6225933 and indicate your commitments. You can call me and indicate your commitments, and you can do whatever is necessary so that we can get those commitments on those contributions. We have our first call for the morning. Calling live, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. This is Elton McCray, former councillor in the BV Triumph NDC. I know you asked a different question, but I want to just reaction some things. Last week, I saw a recording of your program where you were dealing with the councillors, BV, Buxton, Golden Brook, Aslington. Now, with respect to the BV council, you did state, and it is a fact, that the chair and the vice chair are out of the country, right? Which left the council and the villagers at a ransom, in a position of ransom to forces that were not elected to manage the community. Now, while I was on that council, I traveled, but I traveled between meetings. Also, in today's environment, we have the technology, thank God to COVID, I should say, that we can use meetings and it becomes official through Zoom. Even our courts are using Zoom to do trials, right? So I do not see why, if a sitting member of council is out of the community, cannot use Zoom to participate in that meeting. You know, I've been advocating that the BV Triumph Council and other councils should have their meetings streamed so that the public can know what they are doing in their name. Because my experience when I got onto the BV Council was that the members of that council felt that council's business is private. The villagers are not supposed to know what they're doing. That's why they thought they could sell our backlands and do other nonsense that they've been doing. So my advice to the councillors present is if the chair and vice chair continues to be out of the country for the next statutory, is that they make some arrangements so that those two people can participate in a Zoom meeting, because that will be totally legal according to what was the protocol established because of COVID. Because not only Parliament met by Zoom, even international forums met by Zoom at that time. So I don't see why they cannot do it. Now, staying with the BV Council, the present man who is acting as chairman, he had a contract. That time when the PPP been doling out contracts left, right, and center as incentive for black people to be part of their charade that, hey, we represent black people. He got a contract to do Cummins Lane in BV. And over 1 month now, that project is stalled. It just remained there. These people cannot have access to that road in a proper way, right? And nobody in government, because I know normally with contracts you have a period within which you must deliver. He has gone past that period. But because he's a PPP member, it is still there pending. The BV people in that neighborhood has to suffer. Over the weekend, I had a discourse with Dr. Pauline Beard. Dr. Beard raised the question about land grabbing. No. where the people in the, I think she mentioned, Paradise Bachelor's Adventure area, where their lands are under threat. But I would like to say that it's a wider thing than that. The people in Pleasance, their lands are under threat. And many other communities, in fact, the Lands and Surveys had issued a notice about some of those lands, I think way back in May month. Right. Now, those lands are all lands that were granted to the communities by way of an absolute grant. I know you know that in Buxom Back Dam, they get some lands they call, referred to as communal lands. Right? It's the same set of lands, those empolders, that they are trying to seize from the people in Bachelor's Adventure Paradise. Right, because some of those people, when I spoke to some of them recently, and they were telling me those lands were given to the community as a response to the 1823 martyrdom. But it's not. This was a land grant given to all the villages on the East Coast. Those are the African villages. They all got that land grant between the area they bought from the end of that forest step that they bought all the way to the conservancy. So those lands belong to the communities. And whatever we must do to resist such moves by the government and any other persons to take those lands away. I understand in the backlist, there's a move also against those lands. And lastly, I would like to support the call for biometrics that the WPA is pushing for and the rest of the opposition parties. We need to have biometrics in the next general elections or no elections at all. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for your call.
Peace.
Some very important issues raised there by Brother Elton. Very, very interesting issues. I have seen a full-page advertisement about some lands along the East Coast. And at the time the government was advertising its interest in making housing development areas or land settlement areas, some kind of thing. I can't remember the exact, but I think it's housing development areas. And these lands are lands at the back of certain communities, like Brother Elton say. It was our view, at least my view, that those lands usually are grants to communities. But I did note that advertisement. Call hold the line, please. But I saw the advertisement after the fact, because the date for objections, I think, would have passed. And I asked myself if that is enough to convert these lands or to transfer these lands to the government. And so it's an issue that I have an interest in, and I certainly am encouraging Brother Elton and others who have access to the information and they know it all, if I can call it that, to really explore the connections of these lands that were advertised to the communities, and whether or not the government can just advertise the way they did, and in the absence of any objections, do as they wish. Because one of the problems in this society is, the laws would say that they have to advertise in the official gazette and perhaps the daily newspaper. But the average Guyanese citizen doesn't read or doesn't have ready access to the official gazette. And we have to move from the archaic laws, quite frankly, to modernity. Should these advertisements not be placed on social media? Should there not be bell criers in these communities where these lands are appended to? And so that the residents of those communities become aware that the government has intentions of doing X or Y or Z. One will argue that the PPP will not do it because the PPP's motive is to grab land. But we must demand a different way to the approach of these things, failing which we as community residents must simply occupy these lands and ensue in a battle with the government for the protection of these lands. Those are my thoughts, as we say, off the cuff right now, about that approach to this government with these lands. Our community leaders and elders must really and truly get to the bottom of what is happening in relation to these lands. And community must formulate a plan of action to stop it. Caller, thank you for holding your life.
Good morning, Kadaki, and good morning to our listeners on the program. You asked a question earlier about as to whether the WPA should engage in talks with the PPP concerning power sharing. I would say yes, on the condition. And the condition is, for me, is that they should, under the condition that the PPP agreed to use the Takuma Ogunse method, which he said that, I overheard him say that it should be each and every ethnic group should have a seat in the power sharing, should have an equal say in the power sharing. If they want to do it that way, then, and he was saying that also legislation should be changed to make that mandatory. That every, like the Amerindians, for instance, the Africans, the East Indians, they all must have a seat in the power sharing. They all must have a legal space then, like let's say in Parliament, every time. They all must have a legal space in Parliament in the power sharing if they want to do it that way. I think that's a very, very fair and human way. And other than that, no. Thank you very much.
Caller Live, good morning. You missed that one. Right, so the caller is saying that there must be conditions. In any negotiation, you have to have conditions. And so, let me hear your thoughts on those conditions and whether or not this discussion should happen. What about what about the position of government seizing or stopping, let me say, all the attempts to grab lands or to disenfranchise particular ethnic groups in this country? Should that be one of the terms of engagement? Caller, you live. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Conductor. So the main item that is on the floor, there should be no power sharing with the people. Because I've listened to many persons who have accepted they're going to change, let me go and see what we're going to get. They take the people, they put them up to let the world see that they are now going to beg them. And then when they're done, it's a slap in the face. And if WPA should go into power sharing with the PPP wants somebody to show them up that they will be in power for the balance of the night till when the war done. And they realize the area in which WPA is going, especially with these online programs. So they are looking now to say, we are aligned with WPA. And eventually, the votes that you will have garnered will subsequently be taken over and overrun by the PPP. Nobody with a mindset that wants good for us in Guyana, Africans, should never ever join the PPP. Look at the few black people in the PPP party. What voice do they have? Where are they expanding in the PPP? They're just a gimmick for foolish black people like themselves to join the party. When they finish joining the party, they take them and they use them at things like emancipation and so, and as a figure to say, look, who we got here. They send Sam Blinds to America as an ambassador, and we all know Sam don't have no position. It's their Kuliman got the position over Sam. So joining, coming together, no power sharing should be done with the PPP. They claim that they could win the election, let them go into and win it, as they say they can. Now, if make a joke about making up beds, I give you a joke. I used to make up my beds, walking out to tell you gotta make up bed, blah, blah, blah. And I could remember when I first came to where I'm living, I made up my bed. And the day I go to lie down, and there was a lovely snake in my bed. And I tell you, Kadaki, from the day, I don't make up my bed. I get up in the morning, I pull everything up off my bed, put it like this on. Nighttime when I got to sleep, I got to dust my bed. I got to make my bed up. So if anybody comes to my house to see my bed well made up in the day, please don't come, because you will black out. I don't make up my bed. I scramble it up, dice it. So we got to know what we are doing. And for this man who came and spoke about forgiveness for the atrocities that they put us through, I think that meeting, more Africans should have known. And it got to be that the installed regime knew this man was coming. So that's why they set up that fake organization to meet with the man. And anytime monies are being given for our payment as slaves, they give it over to the installed regime. I am telling you, Ejil, Onage, Polarijo, Sam Blinds, none of them black people in the top part of the party wouldn't see a cent, let alone people like me and you, Kedaki. They will not give us the money. Because the other day, Barrett was saying that all of them came, but Barrett didn't say that all of them who come after the Africans in Guyana came and were being paid a salary. And I think that the people who want to look good now and to ask for forgiveness, they should be the persons who come to pay that money, and they shouldn't take a list from the installed regime, but from a reputable organization like Epology, and pay the money themselves. Because once it passed through the installed regime hands, they will give it to all the people like themselves, and we will not get a cent. Look what they are doing with monies that they dole out. Imagine when they giving out the COVID money, the 20,000, all 20,000. Everybody didn't get. Many African people, all we get was pink slip to collect, and we never get to collect it. They share, people are running from one end of the spectrum like the Selby-Cully. Village to village they're going and trap and get the money. And when they came to villages like my village, if they see you got a 2-story house and you got a tenant downstairs, oh, only you, the landlord, could get. The tenants can't get it. Happened to me. So we don't want them sharing our money. Some people are saying, oh, let it come and share. They wouldn't get a cent last. Yesterday was Jam Zone, and it was loaded. Well, you know that is not a protest. But come later down in the week, you're going to hear they're crying how them ain't got money for send the children to school and this and that. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting to hear them talk about protest. They wouldn't go there, but they went to the Jam Zone. And you know who went and make Jam Zone no good? The same people who crying out, they getting knocked off, they can't feed the children. But they found monies to go to full up them same oppressors' pocket at the Jam Zone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your call. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. You tune to the guy in his morning time, and we're talking about Miranda Brown's question, amongst other things. The refusal of the PPP to entertain, my choice of word here, discussions, or even the possibility of discussions about power sharing. Particularly the supermajority that Nigel Hughes said should be made operable in Parliament because of the PPP being a runaway train with the simple majority system. Call it live, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to you and all my black brothers and sisters. Good luck with that power sharing with PPPC, with criminal activity. The C stand for that. And when Jack Joe said no, we must not base. When they use the word power sharing, it's after the election, and then we want to tell CARICOM and tell, oh, we are into CARICOM, we are into power sharing, and what the coalition doing? They don't want power sharing. All that is nonsense. Let Flat Garden move on. Let me represent Bornham because you mentioned something, but it's there. And it's time for WPA members give up what I'm living with and move on. But I'm saying Bornham did not kill Walter Rodney. You see, I learned to count from 1, then move on to 2. We must focus on his brother. I will say it, I'm going to say it again over a program 2 years ago. And he said, Flash Garden, I don't know about that. I was small. I'm going to say it again. Bornham did not kill Walter Rodney. Bornham's brother caused the death of Walter Rodney. Because why he must take his brother, a popular man, where Bornham afraid of him, yes. Anthony Jagan, both parties, PPP and PNC. They were I-Loan. Take him to collect something illegal. Every man must represent the house. Let me move on. I mentioned this to you before. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are listening to you.
Yes. Now. Yes. When my brother Walter Rodney was involved in a problem in a country, I can't remember the country name. And when he get to Bornham made a phone call and stop them from jailing or arm them. But I'm just send him back to his country. And when he did come back to his country, there was 2 cars waiting for him, one for PNC and one for PPP. And he refused both. And he said, I am going on my own. Bonham save Walter Rodney. That's why Flash Garden encourage you to invite Hamilton Green, because he should know these stories. He's not going to come for answer questions, but just start the good things of Bonham. And let me start focus on the bad thing. There's 2 words bound together, good and bad. And we must focus on the good things. Make we all alive and get free education from Bonham. If Guyanese don't know, if the Indian young people them don't know, Bonham saved Jagan's son from getting jail or whatever when he commit that act in that university college where he win. Jagan called, to my understanding, my information, Jagan called Bonham, say, hey, bye, my son is problem. Bonham said, leave it to me. I will take with that. And Bonham make two phone calls I heard. And Jagan's son was back on his country soil, Guyana. We must start the good thing about Bonham. Let me move out about this thing here. Politics. Get politics and politics. The Prime Minister was died from Trinidad, Williams. He said, no man was beaten in his own house. What I wanted to say this morning, I am glad his sister, because I thought this could be a program. The sister come and question him for the examination and what you're doing to black people, children. Flash God, we mentioned this for 2 years. Because we mentioned when that Coolie boy, when the news said this Coolie boy sit 27 subject and pass all 27. He ain't get time for bathroom, bathe, shower, sleep, not at all. Then now lately, out of 10 Guyanese that come top 10, 8 was Indian children. I believe 2 is black children. I question it again. When 95% teachers is black, something is wrong there. Whenever PPP in office, the Indian children always said, they tap. And when they're not in office, they may making much grade. It's something wrong, man. Before I go one more minute before I go. That's why I love this program. That's why I said this program is number 1, Paul Slow 2, and David Isaac 3. You 3 top. Because you don't allow us to come and talk nonsense. If you see, you stop it. I say, hey, call her. Back up. Okay, good. Take a pin. Mark program always allow people to come in his program and disrespect. If it's not your leader, it's my leader. I be not my leader. The first one was a good friend from Borbies, Crawford, that come and said that he witnessed I be not my leader, racial to Coolie people in PNC party. I went good. Now he allow a next guy for one named George Shishi for come and say, oh, Abi Nati must step down, Abi Nati must go, and Simone Booms must take over. And Simone Booms sit there and never stop him and say, no, stop that. Abi Nati is our leader. We got to accept and respect and work with him. Is this time now? No. She never up that person there. Then Crawford would come and say, oh, let me get your number. We're going to link up. If he talk that about Abi Nati, he never talk something. But we got to stop this negative thing against our leader Abi Nati and represent him. Now, for last, I'm going now. The big bombshell. Weekend, I take part of me, watch me news and everything because we got a program like you people come and talk. What we see and know. I see a video what Josh Shishi cursing out somebody, whether not my business. But what I pay attention is when she uses word and tell the person, bring your son them to Guyana. Let me put my parts in their mouth. Oh God, Flat Garden get most more cold, sweat, and dark. For see, Mark just bring these people them on the show for disrespect. I'll be not. And look, I do hope them. Mark Carson call him and like apologize with that nonsense he talk. And I do hope Simon Bruce talk to him with that nonsense he come and talk but those kids, boy kids. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your call. The photograph you've seen displayed on the screen there for quite a while is the photograph of the street which Elton Mako is speaking about. The street that he said the vice chairman of the BVNDC was granted a contract under the current administration to construct, and it has been in that state for an inordinately long time. Caller Live, good morning. Caller, you're live, good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki. We as a people, are you hearing me now?
Yes, I am.
We as a people, we are the one who need to realize and see and know that things have been going wrong for we as a long time. And we have to understand that the PPP people, they are owning ancient, long things that happened for years ago against black people. And this is what you and all the other people who put out the talk show are doing, that to expose certain things. If it wasn't for you and all the other talk show people, we would have never realized what the country was going through. So what Rhonda and all the other people are saying, these are things that have been happening for years and years. And the people then on the opposite side, who are the opposition, I don't understand why on earth they did not get up and say and join forces with other people to come out and bring these atrocities out. It took you, Dr. Hines, and all the other, sometimes Garden Mosey would talk about it, sometimes all the mother talk shows, bring it out. 10 o'clock, people bring it out. Everybody bring out these things. And these are the things that people need to sit down and put their heads together, and all the PPP accountability for these things, what they are doing against black people. When you're talking about taking people's lands away from them, how could you do that? And you bring other people in the country and telling people you're going to give them land. It's an American who live in the United States who told me that she get land in Guyana. I said, girl, how you could get land in Guyana? And I'm a born Guyanese and can't get land. Come on. These people knows about things that are going on into your country before even you know it. Why the other people, like black like myself, do not, especially the ones who are up there who knows these things that was going on, why did they speak out about it? This is not now they've been doing those type of things. It's years. And everybody just sit down. Just because the election, they realized that the election went wrong, that is the reason why people now coming out and really talking and saying that the American government, yes, the American government was involved in it. And that is the reason why that young man said is all in the United States accountability for what they are doing to Guyana, because they should step in and get involved. All they're interested in is our oil. They don't care about nothing else. And that's the reason why Rick Fred Burke is doing what he's doing. So people need to support people like you and all the other people that who's coming out and talking all these things and bringing it out to people so people can know what's going on. Kadaki, you have a best day. And those things are wrong, all those land grabbing. Give it to the people.
Thank you for your call.
Give it to the people.
Call on the line. One thing before I take this call. A slight correction here. I said the vice chairman with that street. It's not a vice chairman. It's the acting chairman. The acting chairman is also the man, the PPP man who heads the the works committee of the BV Triumph NDC, right? The BV Triumph NDC was won by the coalition people, but yet they made this man the head of the works committee. This same man has a contract with the government to construct a street in BV, and you're seeing the state of it. According to Elton Market, it has been like that for a while. Caller, your life. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, bless good morning, Mr. Kadaki, and to the rest of the Guyanese nation. Mr. Kadaki, God bless you. God bless your station. That's what I always begin with, giving you my blessing and giving your station my blessing, and to the rest of the Guyanese nation. Mr. Kadaki, it's amazing, and I want our Guyanese brother and sister to understand the fact of life and reality. And this is why I declare myself as speaking truth to powers. And I'm speaking to all the powers that think it's a power above God. And that's where the truth, because the word of God is with truth. And the truth, the way you declare is what God's word declares to all the powers who are convinced or who think they are more powerful than God. And so this is what I'm saying. How on earth can we Guyanese, who claim, those of us who may claim to be civilized and those who are not civilized, think about bargaining with the devil? You cannot bargain with the devil. There's nothing good in common with darkness and light. The word of God said, you cannot be a child of God or a friend of the world. The two are in conflict with each other. You cannot bargain with people who have in their mind and who are living with the mindset of the devil to steal, kill, and destroy. Don't matter how you go bargain with them. You know what you will end up with? Something that God's word is totally against. It's called compromising. And anytime someone is compromising, you know what they are doing? They are bargaining with the devil because they are saying, I am going to give up righteousness. I can consider giving up righteousness. I'm going to make a desire to consider to release righteousness or to let go of righteous-minded people. And that is what you see happening here with the NDC. That is why the PPP man become the head of the AP, and you even win. Because the foolish mentality with them is to bargain with the devil to get position, opportunity, or to think that they will be given the opportunity. The only thing the devil can do is steal, kill, and destroy. And if you bargain with people who are ordained to steal, kill, and destroy for your wealth, for your mineral, and destroy your race and all things, how can you bargain with them? You are calling, you are compromising. And if you are compromising, that's one of the most evilest thing for a human being doing. It's like a fisherman when they go for catch fish. They put a bait on a hook. They are not going there and put a bait on it because they like the fish. Yeah, the fish can feel nice. If the fish is foolish and open his mouth and go and bite that bait, there's a hook hidden in there for him. And he will become food. And that is what I want the African race, especially in this country, to understand what the vice president and RLM is coming to do. That is why they do that to Patricia Chase Green. She was in charge at sub-festival cities, North and this area, South Rhineville and this thing. What she ever do? She never do anything. All you call it for her. But all we should do is expose the houses them who may have the race and tax at fall, or who people in this, and so that these people come and take up which part and which street and which area and invade a community. Even what Bonham, the PNC, to self-help, bill, enough home. And so this is where the wickedness comes in. The enemy will always be tricking them to compromise. And if you compromise and you giving up your leaders and you giving up your brother and sister because of compromising bargain, you are a deceitful, you are an hypocrite. That's what God described you to be, a hypocrite. You pretending to be somebody you are not. You are sheep in wolf clothing. You are full with venom, only waiting for a price, the right price to come that you could be bargained. If the price is right, who got money, got bargain. That is not what you do with your personality. That's not what you do with righteousness. That's what you do when you're a righteous-minded people. So I'm saying to the whole nation, and I'm speaking to the Guyanese, especially the African diaspora, stop bargaining, thinking about bargaining, because you will never, ever benefit nothing more than what the devil come to do: steal, kill, and destroy. These PPP government and leaders do not have your best interests at heart. What more do you want to realize? What more you want to open your eyes? What more can make you see? I am telling you, if the righteousness can make you see, and as I said again, I am speaking truth to power. I know this is going to convict a lot of people across the board, but I don't care. That's what the truth does. It extinguishes darkness. Mr. Kadaki, your program is a blessing. You are a blessing. Continue to all the righteous-minded and hard Guyanese. Have a blessing, and do not compromise righteousness. All you will end up with is wickedness. If you come into love, you can only end up in hatred. So Guyanese, have a blessed day. We're going to get there if we all stand up in righteousness. Do not bargain with the devil. You will end up in hell. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, caller. Caller on the line, please. I wanted to say to Flash.
Good morning, brother.
Caller, good morning. Hold the line, please. I wanted to say to Flash, or a short response to Flash's reasoning, that Boredom saved Rodney from jail and so on and so forth and so forth. You see, with that kind of logic, I'm going to bring it down to domestic violence. Because you marry a woman, you can't beat her, you can't kill her, you can't abuse her. Is that what Flash is trying to tell us? I beg to differ. There's always a thin line between love and hate. I want to believe that if Boredom realized bringing back Rodney to this country would have been such a thorn in his flesh, you would have said, yeah, keep it and leave you in jail. Call it live, good morning.
Good morning, Brother Kidaki. I am Samuel Sandy, and
hi, Sandy, what's up?
I'm the Vice Chairman of the Region 4 and also a councillor at Haslington Grove. I have been following the program. In fact, in some instances, other persons had to call me to say to me, I need to tune in. I would have been happier had you made contact with me to answer some of the burning questions you had. But given I am here now, I would entertain any questions you might have. But before I so do, as it relates to the BV Triumph issue, there is no acting chairman at BV Triumph. According to Chapter 2801 and 2802, if the chairman and vice chairman are absent, then when it comes to the statutory meeting, one of the council will elect a councillor to chair the meeting, to preside over the meeting, just that meeting. When that meeting concludes, that's the end of it. So Miss Wendy Andrews remains the chairman of the NDC. The only person who can carry that title of chairman acting is the vice chairman of the NDC. All right? Because both the chair and vice chair must be sworn. And I'm certain that Mr. Kumabach was not sworn as chair, neither was he sworn as vice chair. So any other issues you might have had, I'm here now and I can so address them.
I have no issue, I have no question. The viewers maybe have some questions here, but I don't know how we're going to do both at the same time. You on the line and the viewers calling. So I'm not sure how we will address it.
Okay. I
Neighbor, morning, are you morning? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is 7 hours 28 on the 29th day of August in the year 2023. How you doing? How you make out yesterday? How you keeping? How you survived last night? Were you able to rest and recuperate? Are you energized today to join the protest in front of GCOM? Yeah, we're going to be in front of GCOM from about 11:30 protesting for a clean voters list and biometrics. Marinani in the US recently said that, paraphrasing here, he's not interested in any elections that doesn't have biometrics. It's a position I've been holding for quite a while, that the list needs to be clean and biometrics used to strengthen the barriers to fraud or reduce the possibilities of fraud taking place at the next elections. And so I'm happy to see we're not making that call publicly. And I'm also encouraging you guys and gals, citizens, let's go there today and join with the usual protesters, and so we can grow the numbers of people who are calling for a clean voters list and biometrics. Let's go there. Good? So I'll see you out there today. And those of you who are listening to the program, I encourage you to join us. Please do. Now, I saw first and foremost, I don't know who's Worsley Paris, but Paris says, scams, you should be really careful with your words. I can support y'all, and you talk, I guess he wants to say, or she wants to say, I can't support y'all, and you're talking things you know nothing about. Inquiry is over. I don't know what Paris is talking about. And so in the interest of clarity, I would like if Paris can give me some clarity. By the same means that he posted this here, you can message me on the live chat and say, well, Mr. Amsterdam of yours, this is what I'm talking about. Good? You see, you have the benefit of replay. So you can listen to what I said and perhaps listen to it for the second time and third time and come to your conclusion. But then, if you're going to raise it with me, you have to raise it in context. What is it that you don't support, or what is it I said that I don't know about? Which inquiry is over? I want to know those things so I can respond. Right? I want to be able to respond. Like I give people the right of response. I do that. Yes, so one of the things I promised to address this morning is this matter relating to placement exams. The person raising this matter, I don't think I will have the benefit. Maybe she is on the program this morning. But let's go.
APNU are persons who have a pleasant good morning, Mr. Amsterdam and fellow listeners. I just would like to draw the entire Guyana attention to a situation that is happening at the Ministry of Education, most especially in the exam division. Now, I recently learned that there is a placement examination where students write this examination throughout Guyana, and based upon the grades or the marks that that student has obtained, that child is placed at a school of their choice or a school within that mark that they have obtained. So if maybe, I'm assuming, that the child is at a junior secondary and the child, after having written the exam, has obtained a grade that will qualify that child to go to senior secondary, then that child should be placed there. I think that is the purpose of the placement. But what I want to draw to Guyanese attention, black people, wake up, stay woke. Mr. Kadaki, please investigate there. There is some kind of fraud going on at this placement examination and the placing of students, because I have learned that students who have written the exam some of them are being sent back to the same school that they had attended. And when parents queried as to the grade a child has gotten, the personnel or personnel who are responsible for the placement refused to give them the grade. And so what I'm saying here is a relative of mine, so I know what I'm saying, is authentic. And so what I'm saying here is a strategy being used by the government, using the Ministry of Education to marginalize, to place the black student in depressed or not developed schools, so-called schools, developing quote, okay? Prestigious schools with good reputation. So what is going to happen here now, what is going to happen, the strategy that is being used here now is that if an Indian child allegedly has gotten a low grade at GSAT and the child is placed at a junior secondary, when this child takes the placement examination, the opportunity presents itself where that child will be placed at one of the prestigious, so-called in quotes, school like Queens or Saints. And if the marks of the students are not being given, how do you know that that child has obtained a mark to go to one of those schools? But what is happening here, I'm seeing, is that these Indian children are being placed in these schools. This placement examination is being used to place these children at these schools so they have opportunity for the best education. The black child now will be sent to a less recognized school or maybe back to the same school. Guyana, Guyanese, open your eyes. Look what is happening to our children. That's another strategy by this government to keep down the black man, to keep down our children. Open our eyes, Mr. Amsterdam. I want you to investigate. This is very serious. And in addition to that, they have everything planned. What they're doing now, the black people who are responsible for the exams that are in some of those ministries, they are being moved from their substantive positions, and Indian persons who will do their work for them are replacing them. Okay? And these people are being removed without any written explanation as to the reason for why they are removed from their positions. And we need an investigation by the APNU or persons who have the interest of the black persons in mind. Guyanese, please take note as to what is happening with the education of our children. Very, very important. These are our future. These are the future leaders. These are the people who will represent us in the future. We cannot let them destroy them. Thank you so much, sir. Please do your investigation ASAP.
Oh, her dramatic walk to the microphone.
Hey, Black Child, do you know who you are? Who you really are? Do you know you can be what you want to be if you try to be what you can be? Hey, Black Child, do you know where you're going? Where you're really going? Do you know you can learn what you want to learn if you try to learn what you can learn? Hey, Black Child, do you know you are strong? I mean really strong? Do you know you can do what you want to do if you try to do what you can do? Hey, Black Child, be what you can be. Learn what you must learn. Do what you can do. And tomorrow, your nation will be what you want it to be.
Morning and welcome to the program. What's his name said? I was buried alive, but I'm still breathing. I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I got a feeling. Bojo Banton, I hope I'm quoting the words right. This voice note is expressive of the fears that many of us have in this society, and many of us have lived and are continuing to live in this society. Corruption in the education system. Right? Corruption in the education system. For all the years I've been in the field of education, allegations have always been made that corruption abounds in the education system. And when allegations are made of corruption, how do you deal with those allegations? How do you deal with a system that is perceived as corrupt? Transparency is one of the ways you can deal with it. Make the processes transparent. And so you are not the sole arbiter. You are not the sole custodian of the facts in relation to these matters. But in Guyana, for the most part, when allegations of corruption are made, people batten down, they circle the wagons. They make information inaccessible. They give you a hard time, a torrid time to get any information whatsoever. And so what this individual is pointing out through this voice note is what we have been experiencing, what we've been pointing out, what we've been complaining about for years. Since now I was a boy, I usually see. Wesley, I'll get back to you. Let me talk about what I'm talking about. We'll talk about that. Yes. And so, let me give you a background so you understand the placement examination, and then we'll talk about some of the issues which the young lady has raised. Now, it's a policy of the Ministry of Education, as far as I know. I don't know that that policy has changed. That for the greater part, children who sit the National Grade 6 examination will be placed at schools closest to their homes, what they call placement areas. Right? So I know you're going to ask me, so if a child in Buxton writes examinations and gets enough marks to take him or her to Queen's College, will they be placed at the nearest secondary school in the area? No. There is a group of schools that they refer to as the national schools. I think that's the name. Right? The national schools. And those usually are the A-grade schools in Georgetown, which would be Queen's College, Bishop's, St. Rose's, St. Stanislaus College, President's College in Golden Grove. Right? I think those are the schools. I don't think I missed any there. I hope I didn't. That are considered national schools. And the places at national schools are limited. And so, like everything else, you have to have cut-off points. So when, that is why the rush is always who is going to be in the top 1% at the National Grade 6 exams. Because if you're in the top 1%, the cut-off point is not likely to affect you. Good? The top 100 and so on and so forth. Because schools have limited facility and schools therefore has a finite capacity. And so everybody tries to get there in that 1%. Or top 100 or top this, top that, because they get a better chance of being placed at one of the national schools. And at the national schools, you get, for the greater part, all of the resources that you need to support, need to facilitate your academic growth. And so naturally, everybody wants what is good for them. So when you move out of the national schools placement, this rule about the school closest to you comes into play. And so in every region, in every district, you're supposed to find senior secondary schools, junior secondary schools. But if you look at the spread of the schools around the country, it's not true that in every catchment area you have a junior and a senior secondary school. And so a child might score high, but not high enough for a national school, and unfortunately finds his or herself at one of the senior schools in his immediate environment. Parents usually are not happy with that because they want their children in the best schools. I don't have a fight with parents on that. The ministry has a policies regarding those things. And so the ministry, some people stick doggedly to the policy and say, well, this child can't go anyplace else. But let's say for the Buxton Friendship area or the East Coast area, I think the most senior secondary school on the East Coast might be the Hope Secondary. Right? In this stretch, I would say, let me talk from Buxton going east. We'll have, there's the Buxton Secondary, which is located in Friendship. Used to be the Buxton Community High School. They used to do a 6 and a 5 year program there. Perhaps they still do the 6 and 5 year program. When you leave here, you will go next to Bladenall Multilateral. Bladenall Multilateral over the years has been the senior school in the block between Buxton and, let's say, all the way up to Hope. Or as a matter of fact, when you leave Bladenall Secondary, let me take it in thing. When you leave Bladenall Secondary, the next secondary school you would have had previously is the Golden Grove Secondary, then President's College in that same vicinity. But since the construction of the Hope Secondary, when you leave Bladenall, you get to Hope Secondary, right? Hope Secondary. No, Bladenall, Golden Grove is before Hope. I hope Golden Grove is before Hope. Right, so you live Bladenall, you get to Golden Grove, you get to Hope Secondary, and you get to Victoria. Right? You get to Anns Grove. Yeah, those are the stretch of schools. But Anns Grove Secondary is not, I'd say, comparable to Bladenall nor Hope. Likewise, Victoria is not. So you find, if you are in this catchment area, your main options will be what? Everybody will be trying to either get to Bladenall, get to Hope Secondary, get to Golden Grove Secondary, get to President's College. Right? That's if you're heading east. If you head west, you have the option of Annandale Secondary and Cummins Lodge Secondary. Those are the two senior schools I would say along the way. So if you do an exam, you do the National Grade 6 examination, and you find yourself at a school that is not acceptable. Your parents are not happy with that school. You're not happy with that school, especially that you scored high, but the cutoff point precluded you from going to a national school, and therefore you have to be settled in one of these schools in your immediate environment. There's an option. A lot of people are not aware of the option. At least for the greater part, a lot of people don't know anything about it. But that's where the school's placement examination comes in. Right? The school placement examinations cater for people who are desirous of entering a secondary school above grade 7. If you have to enter grade 7, you're not allowed the school placement exam. You're supposed to do the national grade 6 assessment. Right? Because after grade 6 you go to grade 7. Any place from grade 8 upward, you can do the national placement exam. Now the placement exam was designed in my mind, in my understanding from my research, for a particular group of people. Let's start by saying, if you were migrating, you're coming back from some foreign country that you were living and you need to enter the school system here, you can do the placement exam. If you're a child of a diplomat, somebody might come as a diplomat into the country representing some foreign nation, they have to get his child into the public school, placement exam should be administered. If you are at grade 6, if you are at grade 7, if you enter the secondary school system at grade 7, and you're not satisfied with the school at which you've been placed, and you believe that you have a better opportunity of getting to a better school, you can do the placement exam. Right? So those are the categories of people who can do the placement exam. Now, if you are in a school system, and I'm addressing that in particular because that is what this voice note points to. If you are in a school system, secondary school, you are there, you are at a school that you're not satisfied with, you want to move on to another school where you think your chances of a better education will be assured, you do what? You do the national placement examination. But what's the criteria for you to be allowed to do the national placement examination? You have to show consistently high performance at the school that you currently are. That's the criteria. Good. And what is that consistently high performance? It used to be, when I investigated it years ago, it was 75% or so. You have to consistently score 75%, and then in the term that you're going to take the examination, right, the academic year of that examination, you must maintain that 75%. That's first and foremost. So it's an average of 75% or above for the academic year of the exam, and 75% or above in maths and English for the academic year of the exam. So not just overall 75%, but maths and English, you must have that 75% average in the year that you're going to take the exam. Good. Whichever grade you're desirous of entering into at the other secondary school, you must have completed the grade before. So if you want to go to grade 9, you must have completed grade 8. Right? Good. Now, when is the examination given? The examination is usually given in the vacation period, I say August, between August and September. But the deadline for application usually is in July. Good? So sometime in July, if you go on the ministry's website, you might see the dates there when you can apply to do this placement examination. Good? And they allow you go through the necessary procedure. You submit your documents to prove that you have been doing, your report to be particular, that you are consistently this high performer and you maintain these grades and so on. And then time comes to the examination. What happens at the examination is as if you're doing a second, I would say, a second grade 6 exam. It's not grade 6, but it's a second examination to enter secondary school. Because the rules are basically how you score on that exam will determine the secondary school you go to. So just like the national grade 6 exam, if you score high, let's say you score in the top 1%, you stand a good chance of going to one of the national schools. The same thing with the placement examination. If you score high, then you get a better chance of going to one of the national schools. So a lot of people take the opportunity to do this placement with the hope of moving out of the lower secondary schools to the higher secondary schools. You can imagine, therefore, that usually the system will become overcrowded. Because remember, the placements in these schools are finite. And so there's a competition for space. And so the ministry tells us, your child will be allocated a place at a school based on number 1, performance at the national placement examination. And number 2, most importantly, availability of space. So if your child goes, let's say the child is attending Buxton Secondary School and that child does the placement examination and gains a place at St. Stanislaus College, or gains enough marks to send them to St. Stanislaus College, and there is no space at St. Stanislaus College because the population remained constant at St. Stanislaus College, there are no dropouts and so on, and so there is no space. What happens to your child? What is the next best available option? Is there any? If we can't find space according to the ministry, then your child will simply have to remain where he or she was. That he or she would have to remain right where he or she was, despite having taken the placement examination. Now again, because there is a rush of people usually to get out of the lower secondary schools, there's a large number of people who will take the examinations with limited spaces available. What is expected that running is going to happen? Like the police force and driver's license. I know for a fact that there was a time in this country, I don't know if it still happens because they're doing it electronically and so on now, but maybe that makes it even more possible. But there was a time in this country when you wanted a driver's license, you didn't even have to show up in the examination room, because the runnings was done where somebody writes your exam for you. And if you think that was bad, the worst was there was a problem, and perhaps still is. Well, let me not go there. There was a problem in the system where your scripts were switched. So the examiners take money from somebody to ensure that they pass the exam. And they switch the script of the person who got the kind of grade that will ensure that you pass the examination. And that person fails. You pass. And you gone through at the expense of that person. It's a known corrupt practice. At least it happened in the day. I don't know if it still happens. What people started doing to that, to counter that, write the name on every page of this exam booklet, so nothing can get switched easily. Right? That was a countermeasure. But sticking with the exam story at placement, there are errors. I like to tell people there are errors of commission and omission. And so there are very many levels of the system where your child could be disadvantaged in terms of either, we like to use the word docking, the scripts got docked, somebody switched the script, somebody switched the scores. And so because John Saul has a contact in the system, John Saul's grandchild's score could be mixed up for his advantage with somebody else's score. It can be explained by a simple typographical error if push comes to shove. And so there are many persons who have complained that based on their children's ability, they're not convinced that justice obtains at the national placement exams. As a matter of fact, the examination division, I think, is responsible for those exams. And so fingers are being pointed at members of staff of the exams division. It is alleged, let me say it is alleged, that there is a racket going on there. The voice note indicated that. Is it possible that that racket is taking place? Beyond the shadow of a doubt, yes it is. How do we intend to fix it? There's a big loophole in the placement examination that protects anybody who is involved in corrupt practices in the administration of the examination. There is no provision for a review. So when we present to the parent or the child that this is your score from the placement examination, our word is gospel. Our word, our declarations have to be taken as gospel, because there is no review provision. You can't ask for a review. Now, if you were to have a system of review, a review naturally allows an independent marker to have a second look at the script and arrive at a score. And if that score correlates with the previous score, then it is kept. But if there is a vast difference, if there is a big variance in the scores, then obviously they will be called for further investigation or a declaration of a different score. You can get that done for CXC. You can get that done for common entrance, I think. You can get that done for the Ghana Technical Education examinations. But you cannot get that review done for the placement exams. And so when the parent or the young lady is saying that they asked for the script or asked for the score and they were told they can't get it, it is because of that loophole. And that loophole allows for corruption. So if we want justice for our children during the placement examination, we first have to address that issue. We have to call on the ministry to make provisions for a review of these examinations. Just as how the nation is calling right now, or lots of schools and students are calling for CXC to review the human and social biology scores. And mass, quite frankly, a whole number of people across the regions, and I'm talking locally and regionally, Caribbean, are saying that they have problems with the HSB scores. The scores don't seem to be accurate. One entire school, every student got a grade 4. When you check with other schools across the country, it's the same situation. Entire schools, the children are getting grade 4 for HSB, and so people are calling for it to be reviewed. The thing is, it can be reviewed. CXC charges $30 per review. There's a deadline, I think it might be around the 4th of September, by which you have to submit for your review. A provision is made there for questioning the system. The technical examination, there is a provision for questioning the system. So why is there no provision for questioning the placement exam? That is what we have to fix. Because unless that is fixed, there's no means of appealing the result. And so parents in many instances leave with more confusion than clarity as to what really took place at this exam. And so when allegations are made of, or if allegations are made of corruption in relation to the national placement examination, how do you restore confidence to the system? How do you help people to have confidence? By transparency. Transparency dictates that we have provisions made for a review of the examination scripts. Who corruption benefits in the system? Who got money? Who has money? They say money talks and bullshit walks. And so the people who have access to resources, financial resources especially, in some instances you can say human resources, because people got big connections, can use those connections and their money to influence the system to act favorably for them. The contention of the voice noter, the system is benefiting Indo-Guyanese disproportionately. Is it reality? Yes. Is it reality that Indo-Guyanese for the greater part control the financial wealth and economy of this country? Yes. Are they the type of people who will engage in bribe taking and bribe making? The history is before you. You can examine that. I have my opinions on it. Then nobody offer your fast inducement as anybody else in this country. So if you don't want these allegations to be made of ethnic cleansing across the country, including education, we have to create a transparent system. We as citizens have to demand transparent systems. To just complain about it is never enough. We have to act on it. How do we intend to act on it? When you can't find a place based on the score, they return you to your school. If they mix up or misplace your score, they return you to the school. If your score can't be ascertained, they return you to the school. Or how are parents or guardians made to believe that what they see is what they actually got? Good. Those are the things we need to address. Let's work on that like we're working on the voters list. I agree with you, DC. Not only the education system is colonial, but the whole governance system is colonial. Good? I'm sure about that. And so if we want to live in modernity and we want to enjoy the wealth of this country, we have to fight for modernity. Good? You know, just the other day I was laughing and I was laughing with somebody. And I was using a simple analogy. We say we are promoting tourism and we're a developed nation and so on and so forth. But a matter as simple as Wi-Fi is a problem in this country. Can you walk in the capital city and get an option of 10, 15, 20 open sources of Wi-Fi that you can connect to make an international transaction? GT&T has a service called MMG. People got smartphones now. Is there any Wi-Fi that you can connect to quickly make an MMG payment or transaction against going through the whole wheel of punching in numbers and numbers and numbers? We don't have modernity in this country. We joking. And we call ourselves a tourist destination, or we're trying to sell ourselves as tourist destination. We monkeying ourselves. An examination like the placement examination is it necessary that we have to do it manually? Because the more manual interaction we have with certain things, the more likely they are to become corrupt. Especially in this small society where people know people all around. You can sit here and you can take an international exam online. Multiple choice exam like the placement exam is, I think they call it objective, objective type questions. And by the time you have completed that exam, you can tell your score. But in this day and age, people who are desirous of doing the national placement exam, number one, must go physically to an examination room. And number two, wait for decades, as I would say, because it would look like a very long time to know the results of those exams. At least 2 weeks. Two weeks is a lot of time to facilitate corruption. Immediacy could eliminate the possibility of corruption, because again, it's a multiple choice type exam. There are systems that can quickly compute your correct and incorrect answers and give you back a score. Why don't we have those systems in place? Because we want to facilitate what? Corruption. It's as simple as that. Why are businesses and ministries and what do you call them, departments of state or departments of government so reluctant to move into the technological era? Why? Because it will eliminate or it will constrict the influence that some people have on the results. And so you're cutting back on the people corruption opportunities. And so they're going to resist technology. But who is responsible for changing the system? We, the citizens. We, the citizens. Play your part. That's all I can say. Don't let us only complain. Let's play our part. Children is asking if it's possible that the SBS were not uploaded electronically because SBS plays a major part as part of the grade. Any subject that is school-based assessment, let me change the statement. Any subject that school-based assessment is a part of will not return a grade 4 if the school-based assessment was not submitted. It has to be an inconclusive or incomplete grade. Can't submit a grade, can't return a grade 4, because from the fact that that component has not been submitted, the student cannot be assessed. I might be a little decadent in my understanding of the examination systems, because I haven't been in the classroom or even in the education system for quite a while. While I was at secondary school, if your score was below the grade 5 mark, I think they used to call it unclassified. They don't know what to say about you. We used to call it uncle. Right? But CLC eventually changed the grading scheme, and you had to get lower than a grade 5. I think in my time it was a grade 4. Then if you get lower than a grade 5, I think it was unclassified uncle still. But in every instance, if you did not submit your SBA, your exam would come back ungraded because they couldn't mark it. And so I don't think it can be attributed to the absence of or the failure to submit the SBAs. I'm thinking so. What some people are suspecting is that there was a problem in the electronic marking. When the Spencer Town wants to know how much money we have to pay to review the paper, we as an individually or the nation? Because individually it will cost you $30 per review. Yes, Janet. Yes, Janet. I see you agree with that. Right? I too was curious. Yes. So, like everything else, we have to intervene in an active manner to get these systems changed. That's all I want to say. Wesley is asking if I saw the interview at the graduation of some of the top students. The reason power was so weak, right? We can have top students whose reasoning power is weak. Do you know what is learning by rote? R-O-T-E. I usually argue that the child who got 17, 18, 20 subjects at CXC is no better than the child who got 8 or 9 subjects at CXC with good grades. As a matter of fact, if you were to ask me, I would probably give the child with 9 good grades at CXC the edge over that child who got 18 subjects. Because that child had more time to partake in extracurricular and other activities to develop the intellect. As against a child who was always focused on academia to achieve 18 or 19 or 20 passes at CXC. Understand that? They got a thing we used to call cramming. I don't know if you still call it cramming. Same word. And one thing we know with the examination system, the Caribbean examination system, I'm sure there are educators on this live show you can contradict me if you have information that can contradict me. CXC has a test bank, like maybe any examination infrastructure. And so when you draw from that test bank, the possibility is questions will continue to repeat themselves. For example, I will tell you from listening to students who did this year's CXC examination, a whole lot of the mathematics questions were repeat questions from a previous year. And so if you're an educator, to a large extent you can predict what to expect coming on the exams. Apart from the fact that you're given a syllabus with the topics that you're supposed to prepare the children with or for, you can predict the questions by getting previous year's papers. Create your own question bank from the accumulation of previous year's papers, categorizing them and basically drilling them into your children's head. And so a child could come out at the top of the class or the top of the lot in the examination, Caribbean examination thing. But you find the child really can't reason. Trust me. And so there's no surprise to me. It's no surprise whatsoever. And when I was at school, I know people used to buy paper. Certain lessons children used to do their best to get to attend. Parents used to make those major sacrifices in terms of cost to get their children into certain lessons because the lessons were doing well. But why were they doing well? Behind the scenes, the owner or the operators of those lessons used to get it on their own runnings. He used to buy paper. Right? They used to buy paper. So, yes, I can understand whoever this person was, I can't remember right now, that they ain't got the reasoning power. Good? Good. So let me turn quickly back to Wosley it was. Who say I pretended as though I don't know what I'm talking about or what he's talking about with the Walter Rodney inquiry. I'm not the type to argue certain things, you know. I usually leave it to the judgment of the people. The evidence of the day shows that Fox Burnham was president and he was facing serious challenges from Walter Rodney and the party of Walter Rodney. The evidence of the day also showed that there was a military man named Gregory Smith The evidence of the day shows that there was a conspiracy. I don't trust him either. But you can ask Jerry Gavaya. Ask him about his testimony. Was he saying that there was a commission of inquiry? Ask Granger why he has never made it public, the findings of the commission of inquiry. I tell you, in my mind, Burnham was one of the best leaders this country had, if not the best. But that doesn't make it impossible for him to be complicit in the murder of political opponent or opponents. I will tell you that in my mind, Burnham up until time represented the best line of defense from African Guyanese re-enslavement. A visionary, people say. We see all of the policies that he had, which were benefiting the nation. We also see some of the craziness, which had its negative impacts. When we are considering leaders and their leadership style and everything else, we must consider that there is good and bad in humans. Like Flash Gordon said, Burnham prevented Rodney perhaps from going to jail because when they were going to jail him to misbehave in a country, Burnham called and said, send him home. That's a good aspect. But did Burnham hung Walter Rodney and the party of Walter Rodney, members of the party of Walter Rodney? Yes. There was a WPA and still is, quite frankly, a WPA recognition handbook. I had a copy the other day. When in the 2000s I worked in the Public Relations and Education Department of the Ghana Defense Force, I saw a copy for myself firsthand. I held it in my hands. The WPA recognition handbook. It had the leading members of the WPA, their photograph and everything that you needed to know about them. Who was Commander-in-Chief of the Army at that time? Fox Burnham. So when we make these arguments about inquiry being completed and Burnham didn't do this and Burnham didn't do that, sometimes in my mind we are just being sentimental. We would like Burnham to be the ultimate angel that he wasn't. Chetty was no angel. Jaggi was no angel. Ramattar is no angel. None of the presidents of this country, perhaps presidents across the world, can claim to be angels. Because long and short is, people will do anything to protect the power that they got. That's a fact. It's 23 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. The lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. Call and let's talk the thing. And among the things we're talking about, we're going in front of GCOM at 11:30 today. The lines are open. Well, when it's saying that corruption in Ghana will soon get a GDP value rating, I think that was done before. Call it live, good morning.
Yes, good morning. I could not wait for opening line. This is Flash Garden. Good morning to you and all my black brothers and sisters. I got to mention this because I make a mistake. I use Bornan brother, but it's Waterani brother. Anyway, I'm glad you bring up this topic today concerning the education problem. Because why? Flash Garden is saying for the past 2 years on the program is something is cooking in the education system. Because you mentioned that Indian boy has 27 subjects and passed all 27. Now the last one too is of the top 10, 8 is Indian and only 2. Why every time when the people pay them in office, they disrespecting black people education? When black man get 95 and couldn't get 35 and put it along. And said, couldn't get me 95. Anyway, now, we must move away from this Bonham era and Walter Rodney era because why? The election is close. And it's not good for we focus on this aid, Mr. Amsterdam. Listen to me. I don't want my black brothers and sisters, WPA members and supporters died in vain because they get something in their heart against Bonham killing Walter Rodney. I'm saying again, we gotta come from one. Why Walter Rodney brother taking bail to collect something what is illegal? We not focus on that. If Walter Rodney brother did not take him the car to go and collect something illegal, our leader would have been alive today, Walter Rodney. We got to put it. We have all him accountable. Let me go all accountable. All him. And you must bring him on this show. Like tell Flash Garden why he take his body to collect something illegal. He could have put the rights on him and buy it. And if he tell his brother why my brother still go with him to collect something illegal? You see books, government grammars tell me, don't be educated fool, be educated wise. Nobody can come and tell Mr. Flash Garden, get an envelope for you come to back to the vision. No. Leave it as you be the one collected, say time. We got to all write the right, brother accountable and stick a pin right. Let Flash Garden stick a pin. The Indians them bring an inquiry, but Walter Rodney and Bonham Flood, because you know why? They want to keep us fighting with each other when election time. We must fight and we lose focus on them for re-election. We must ask ourselves why they get irony now, why they haven't given inquiry with the Indian minister that what they kill and they know about. Because you know why? Them is not food, black man of food. Because Jagdio don't want the Indian and fight against Indian. For when the inquiry come out, that Jagdio know who killed that man. Some you know yes, but they keep it quiet because they don't want to fight against each other. But they go bring out inquiry about Bonham. And now you do it now, close the election now for open old cans of worm again. We gotta move out from that. But if you want to clear the air, I'm challenging you, bring Walter Rodney brother if it's alive and ask him the question, why he take Walter Rodney there when he gonna collect something illegal and dangerous? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. You know why sometimes I smile I smile when I hear some presentations made on this program? We follow double standards, you know. Right? A lot of people are asking on this program, not only Flash, why Walter Rodney went to collect this thing himself? Why Walter Rodney brother took him to collect this thing? Why was he collecting something that is considered illegal and so on? But I'll answer that in a very short statement. A lot of you come and ask these questions here. Ask your leaders, and I'm using leaders guidingly. Ask your leaders to do all that is necessary or anything possible to remove the monkey from your back, to change the regime, to get rid of an illegitimate government in your eyes. You encourage your leaders and you ask them to do whatever they have to do to change a government that is oppressive. Were the same requests being made of Walter Rodney and his party and other parties at the time? A lot of us talk about Gandhi leading a revolution because of the army for not standing up against this government. How else do you expect the army to stand up against the government? But with the same tongue, we say that in a time past, somebody allegedly attempting to do what we are asking now was foolish and criminal and responsible for their own demise and all of that. How duplicitous can we be? Call it live, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Kadaki. Well, I don't want to touch the topic with Walter Rodney because, you know, when I talk, I get bad reviews. Anyway, but with the thing, I wouldn't think, but what was reported, I thought the man was reported that he had this thing in this vehicle. And his brother was there. Alright, don't let me do.
Sorry, I'm not going there this morning. I have the last sentence. I don't want to hear anything else about it. Thank you.
Alright then. Now we're talking about the educational facilities in Guyana. I could remember I had a child who wrote common entrance and got 520 marks. That was 1992. And the 520 marks was marks for St. Joseph High School. And they decided to send that child to Sturgeville Secondary. Well, that didn't venture in my book. Because if you got a child with 520 marks and you're going to put a child in a school where the pass marks for the school is 400 and something, that child will be in that school with no person where the child's qualification, I mean the child's mark, for that child to compete with throughout the child's educational life within the school. So I put the child where the child had children with the same marks, so the brain was always in competition to maintain a space among the same numbers that entered the class. Now if we go back, the Minister of Education who tried to change up the educational system in Guyana was Vincent Tico. Because after Vincent Tico became Minister of Education, then you saw all the people going into the top secondary schools. Those high schools were schools that were mainly church schools, where the people from the church's children used to be going there, and then it became open that other children could have attended. But as Vincent became Minister of Education, those schools who used to get mainly black African children and Portuguese children, because they were the people in the churches, it ended up to where it is now. And now that the other people have gone into the schools, they work in such a way that only them alone could go to the top secondary schools or high schools in Guyana. We must remember about 2 short years ago when the wild hog child wrote common entrance, and the wild hog went to where the papers were being marked and instructed that the wild hog child must end up in one of these top high schools. Can we remember that? Now coming back, the children, I had a child, the same child who went to Joseph was in a class with a teacher of the school, and at no time my child could pass a teacher child in the school. Common entrance, come the child excel over the teacher child. CXC, come the child excel. And I was at a rum shop where the teacher was. He saw me and he called me, said, man, I got to congratulate you on your child achievement at CXC. The child is always bright. The child is brighter than me child. And I said to the teacher, seeing that the child was brighter than your child, why the child never get first in the class? Miranda, after all, oh, you child will get first and me picking will get third or fourth. So you saw it there, and he was an Indian. So this thing with the lady is talking there. Now if you write common entrance to go in to a secondary school, that's the basis on which you should go into secondary school. Why must there be another exam, a placement exam, to put you in the secondary school? That is some skullduggery that is going on in Guyana, and we know where it comes from. Now these children, when they go to the school, they get 40 and 50 subjects at CXC. You put them in a working area, they cannot do anything, because you know why? You don't know how they achieve those high grades. And when you put people with the high grades to work, they cannot do nothing. Hence, Guyana will always be in the position that it is in. Now, coming back to this morning, protest, I know I'm going to be there, and I don't want a bad mouth. Let us see if a quarter who went to Jam Zone will attempt to go to the protest. We will just look and see, and I hope the minister, the former minister who had our protest and was the talk that she didn't have plenty people, I hope she could make herself available to attend the protest, because for all the protesters would pass at GCOM, I do not think I have ever seen her there. And I usually go to protest steady, so I would like to go. And lastly, this thing with this coming together where the PPP want to have talks with WPA, I think that should be completely off the cards, because Bharat realized and Bharat knows that the Indian populate in Guyana is not going out to the polls, one, either because they are dead or they're out of the country. And those that remain, after looking at the policies of the PPP, promising the reopening of the sugar estate and all the different things, $40,000 pension, increase in NIS pension, and the different things, and they see that none of these promises has not been realized or kept. Those people decided now we ain't going to look this woman daughter from Bakenham who says she wouldn't vote because the things that they promised them they cannot deliver. And what Bharat is trying to do, he realized that AFC ain't got it no more with PNC. So he see the leaning of PNC merging together with WPA. So hence now he knows he cannot not get nothing to start with him. And then he know I like you and Dr. Hines will not talk with him, let alone a gun say. So what he's trying to do, he's trying to print a propaganda machine that he is now looking to have talks with WPA. So people who will be gravitating now to WPA gonna say, you know what, we got to stop back, we got to study what we gonna do, and then there wouldn't be a march and they would stay in power. So I know you, Kadaki, we ain't talking nothing to Barrett. Let Barrett try with his own self and see who we could get. We in there, so we ain't want no mixing. 6 little mice sat down to spin. Pussy passed by and she peeped in. What are you doing, my little man? Making coats for gentlemen. Shall I come in and cut off your thread? Oh no, Miss Pussy, you will cut off our heads. That is Barrett Jagdio. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your instructions. Yes, the lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. I'm not saying yeah or nay. It's not a discussion that has been entered into the Working People's Alliance, I can tell you that. But it's a response to Miranda Brown's inquiry on the Walter Rodney groundings of last Thursday. Right? So I don't want you to construe it in any way that the WPA is considering talking with the PPP or so. We simply raise this discussion. I have simply raised this discussion because I recognize Miranda Brown, who by now we agree is a mouthpiece to the PPP, asking that question on the Thursday night groundings, the special editions of groundings on Thursday night, right? Whether or not the WPA is disposed to having discussions with the PPP about shared governance. Why would Miranda come and ask that? Did they send her? Like they send the critics to cuss up the PPP supporters the other day because they didn't want to pay revenue license and so on for the electronic bikes. It's 20 minutes till the 9 o'clock hour. The lines remain open. And I'm encouraging you, let's go out in front of GCOM. 11:30 today. I know of several issues. There are a whole lot of incidents out there. With people's children being deprived of what they rightfully worked for. I know a parent who is a non-critic of prayer, whose child suffered victimization. Child was not given the correct placement. But you know, they say, I'm a seed wherever you plant, there you can grow. That child is now doing exceedingly well at the school at which they were placed, proving to everyone that the academic quality was always there, as people know, because the history of good performances from that child exists and is there to show. The only far along cut all the line that is evident is when it came to the national grade 6 exams. And some people would say children get examination fright, etc. But there are a number of events which happened to support the conclusion that the child was discriminated against because of the parents' continuous criticism of prayer. Caller, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Brother Kadaki, and good morning to all the viewers and listeners. Kadaki, you summarized the situation with the placement with the school children very succinctly this morning. But I would like to follow up by mentioning that first of all the primary these grade 6 and 7 examinations they're like the primary landing or platform or springboard, whatever we want to call it, towards our children's the primary platform to our children's journey into academia. So it is very, very important and should be and these authorities who look over this entire process, they should be very, very prudent with the way they're doing the jobs, because it is very, very important, and they're paid. I'm sure they're being paid handsomely to make sure that this operation goes smoothly and goes fairly as possible. So I don't think that people should have to, afterwards, they should have to be applying to get the grades re-evaluated, pay $30 or whatever for that, because in the first place these jobs should be done correctly, and the right people should put in place, and it should not be taken for granted, because like I said, it's very, very, very important, our children's education, because they're the future. And they must be given the best opportunity to excel in whatever field they desire to, especially in academia, because that's important. That's where our future leaders are coming from. The other point I wanted to make is about I think Randall spoke about it a few days ago, something like that, in regards to the attendance at the jam zone thing that they had recently, and the demographic. She talked about the demographic of 99% of the people who supported these places here, and she rightly said that they're mostly black people. They're the ones that go to these cities, mostly support these people. So, and I don't think these people who will spend the last money, some of them save up for months to support these concerts or whatever. I don't think they're dumb. They know to themselves that they've been disenfranchised. The jobs, the homes and everything that's been taken away from them. Some of them even been killed. They know about all this, and they're still going towards to supporting these enablers, right? The people who keep in these concerts and who have other businesses that supports this installed regime, right? So these people know. So it's like a cliche. You gotta remind them all the time, tell them you're supporting these people who are supporting people who are depriving you, right? So she spoke about that, and I hope that those people are listening. Those same people who went to spend all their money and went to these concerts. But also, I would like to these people, these enablers, like your hits and jams and other quote unquote black owned businesses in the country who are supporting this illegal regime because they're giving them whatever. I wanted to know that you may be a hits and jam promoting a concert or whatever. You may be another black person. Maybe you may own a tire shop. You may own an auto business or whatever. But the thing is that you got to remember that these businesses that you own, they are in your community, and automatically the people who will be your patrons, the people who will be supporting your business are people from your community who are being disenfranchised, right? Who are being deprived. So it's like shooting yourself in the foot. You selling something, and the only person coming to buy these things from you, they don't have no money because all the money and everything will be taken away from them. So who are you going to sell to another 10, 15 years from now? where will your legacy lie? What would you leave for your generation? Your capital that you had, because nobody's going to buy from you anymore, because the other people that come into your community to buy nothing, and everybody who's supporting your business, they don't have anything anymore because they take away everything from them, or some of them migrated, or some of them died. So you will be left with a little bit of your capital in your hand, looking around with nothing to do. So open your eyes. I'm asking you, these same people, to open their eyes and see what is going on with supporters of their business. And if these people will have monies to support their business now, 10, 15 years from now.
Thank you,
That's what I say. Thank you.
So the lines remain open. 625-933 is the number to call. We're tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time. We have 12 minutes to program time. And remember, we will now do a GCOM at 11:30 to song our voices, to lend our voices to the call for a clean voters list and biometrics. Call in live. Good morning. What do you have working in the background? It's loud.
Oh, that's an inverter. I'm sorry. Yes, you hear me better now?
Yes, go ahead.
Good. I'm going to tell you a real-time story. We know about people bribing and pushing their kids and asking for the kids to go to XYZ schools and the top schools and what's not. There was a friend of mine, a personal friend of mine, who went to tutorial in Georgetown. And he had a friend who went to Queen's College. His parents were very affluent in society, very influential. And he said he knew the guy was in family. Sent the guy up here to QC or what's not. Fast forward years ahead now. Right? My friend flew in as a captain with Delta Airline. I think I told the story here before. He was a captain with Delta Airline. And he said, well, in the cockpit, who's flying the plane? Same fellow who went to QC, whose parents pushed him to go to QC. My friend, dad, who I know, had very serious influence in that country, could have put his son in any school he wanted, but he was a man of integrity. And he said, you gotta work for what you need. And you're gonna get the results you get, here's where you're gonna go. But my boy continued to push on. And today, I could tell you many more stories like that. Many more stories like that. So, we just gotta keep our kids. They might not hit the big high schools and what's not, but we just gotta make them focus on the prize. Focus on the prize. And I will always give a person with a grade 3 a job over one with a grade 1. Because the person with a grade 3 is a faster, solution-oriented person. The one with a grade 1 will take a longer, or those with all the 20-something subjects going to take a longer to solve problems more than the one with 8 subjects. Analytical. Anyhow, that's my take.
Thank you, caller. Call it live.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. Good morning, everyone in the Guyanese diaspora. Good morning, all Guyanese. I was asking myself.
Go ahead.
Yes, on the subject matter about students, and I thought that President College was a school of high achievers in terms of those who achieved the highest scores. Wasn't that established as the case, Mr. Kadaki?
President's College was first founded as a school of excellence. Like everything else that other Bonham touch, once the PPP took control of the education system and government and everything, they basically collapsed President's College to a regular secondary school. Now they use it as a dorms school, particularly for folks outside of the region. So the high performers in K2 and the outlying Amerindian communities and so on, who should really gain a place in Georgetown at one of the top schools, as we say, are usually sent to President's College?
And just a rhetorical question. So when the president did this thing for the school, it wasn't enshrined in the Constitution. It wasn't made as a particular law or something of the sort. It was just word of mouth. So I was wondering, because if that's the case, then you've got an issue to go to the court on. But yeah, part of the whole culture, nobody wants to go to court. A whole lot of stuff has been swept under the rug. This is the whole political attitude. Going in front of GCOM today is good, but we need to take GCOM to court for disenfranchising all of Guyana. So it's like that is not being done. It's like we could take. We should be taking the court to the court right now for dragging its foot on the petition. It's like everything is like being swept under the rug, and people just at this point, educated people or concerned persons, have to say, man, we support, we hugging up our frog, but man, when you delve into these things every day like we do, you begin to see that there is some allowance by the PMC and the new administration to allow the PPP to do these things and allow these irregularities and these checks and balances to fall to the gutter. And you can't help but asking yourself, like, man, I'm pushing this car, but somebody's stepping on the brakes. People are asking us to, hey, jump in and give me a push. I'm pushing, but you got your foot on the brakes. So how are we going to move? You can't help but asking yourself that after 3 years. Like, why haven't we taken GCOM to the court, Claudette Singh to the court? Like, why? Like, why have we got a COI commission and we can't get the results? Like, why do we got all these complaints about death squad killings, but we can't take it when we got a one-seat majority? Like, all of these things like have been swept under the rug, and after a while, people are going to get just tired. So it's almost defeatist, and I can't even get to the point that I want to talk about because all of these things are just so compounded. When we talk about the compounded nonsense. Eric Phillips is the leader or the person who is, I guess he designated himself, and that's an issue we need to talk about, is should there be only one committee dealing with reparations? Now, we don't want to have scattered voices, but, we just can't have one person alone dealing with reparations.
United States Corporation is suing the
So we don't know what has been discussed with this these people coming out of Scotland or the British the other day. I just draw a blank on their names on reparations, to apologize on reparations. All right, this family. Eric Phillips has been meeting with the PPP. So what's been happening? So now we're hearing a narrative of the PPP claiming that their indentureship is akin to slavery. So who knows what's happening if Eric Phillips is making some negotiations that you guys push that narrative and we merge it. So let me say reparations is not an issue for Eric Phillips alone. If Eric is going to be compromising. Now, I am wondering, is he compromising? Right? We have seen Order 60 was a compromise. So we know compromises and appeasers come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. But it seems to me as though we are being maneuvered to compromise our reparations issue. So we need to say to Eric Phillips, and we need to say nothing to Eric Phillips, because Eric Phillips don't have no monopoly on reparations. So if Eric Phillips got any plans to sell us out, we're going to deal with you, Eric. Legally. We're going to deal with you if you got any plans up your sleeves. All right? So it don't matter that you're some White House fellow. Reparations is not a single person issue. How many persons know about reparations in Guyana, really and truly? Right? How many of you have been talking to us about reparations? So who Eric Phillips talking to? How How come he ain't coming and talk to us on this show about reparations? Has he gone to the churches and enlightened the churches that Christianity as a religion is singularly premised on reparations? And I want to put this challenge out there to my Christian family. Do we know, or do we care to know, that Christianity is singularly paramount about reparations? Because Jesus came to reconcile sin and reconcile sinners. That's Christianity in a nutshell. So the premise of Christianity is to reconcile, to repair the damage of original sin. Now the question becomes, Christianity is good for past, present, and the future. It is for salvation. The salvation is reconciling your sinful self from sin by paying the price. So we need to understand that Christianity is good, yes. So that we need to use the good of Christianity to address our social issues in society, hence repairing the social damages, compensating. So the question I ask in the month of African emancipation, which Christ came to emancipate all, how can we use the emancipation principle, the reparation principle of Christianity to apply to our everyday lives in society? Well, that's the whole purpose of the church. To guide people in good conduct and to pay the price and to repair the damage. How do we do that? Yes. 10 seconds. How do we do that in today's society where the church must play a role in repairing the damage? How do we do that, pastors and elders? Once again, thank you for considering what I'm saying.
Thank you for your call. It's 9 o'clock on the 29th of August in the year 2023. Final call. I hope this call is going to address the reparations. Because I know Eric Phillips is part of a Caribbean or CARICOM reparation committee. He's not a lone ranger in the reparation matter across the region. Call your life.
Good morning. And good morning to all. Now, I will take up this discourse that Brother Coffee just started there about Eric Phillips and the reparations thing. I cannot go into Eric's mind, but just want to remind Brother Coffee that there is a Guyana Reparations Committee, and Eric is the chair, right, but he's not the committee. And that committee, as far as I know, have an open forum every Thursday afternoon. In other words, any African Guyanese can walk into that committee's meeting to make his contribution towards reparations. Documentations that are submitted, at least quote-unquote, officially that we know of, are vetted by that committee before presentations we discuss that. I do go to that. I am Agnes representative on that committee, so I know, right? And Brother Coffee mentioned the church. Yes, if you look at the principles of the church, it's all about reparations. Jesus came and he changed to change things. But we also know that the church was steeped in the conditions of our foreparents. It was the papal bulls that denounced Africans as being less than what the world should see us as, right? The papal bulls defined what should happen to Africans. And then when you come down later, it was a Catholic priests Bartolome de las Casas, who was subsequently considered the protector of the Indians, that is the Amerindians, right? When he looked at the conditions in the Americas, he is the one who recommended that Africans be enslaved, because why? According to him, they are more suited to that kind of work. It was all a vendetta, because we must understand that the Africans were in Spain and Southern Europe controlling things. The Africans are the ones who taught the Spaniards. They are the ones who established the universities in that part of the world, right? And because of the Arabic domination, Africans were in that old in that time. They felt aggrieved, and so it was all a vendetta against the African. They lied and said, hey, these people are not humans, so we can do them what we want, and at the same time we can teach them some Christian principles because they need it, right? So the whole idea of teaching Africans Christianity was it was an insult to us. So we agree that the church today, there are many liberation theologists around the world, and the church today is moving towards seeing that it redressed what it created. And, I saw a comment earlier where someone was saying, why not ask for reparations against the Arabs? Because they started the slave trade. Indeed, the Arabs were part of it, and I think the reparations movement is also against the Arabs for that aspect of it. And with that, I say thank you very much, and I know it's 9 o'clock, so I will not continue much more. And again, I will repeat your call. Please come out and support this call for a clean voters list. We need to have it, and biometrics. Good morning again to you all. Bye, guys.
Thank you.